Hello and welcome to another episode of Casting Views, the podcast that takes a topic each week and, as the name suggests, cast views. This week it's Mind Wipe time, and I'm really excited to have a good friend of the show, good friend of mine, and an awesome guy all round. I've got Joey from the Game Club Pod. Hi Joey, how you doing?
I'm good, Dan. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Now, you're becoming an extremely regular voice on this show, which is good for me. In fact, if I've worked this out right, they'll have heard you 2 weeks ago with Alex, myself and Alex doing the origins of phrases.
That was a very fun episode. That was I'm not as delirious as I was when we recorded that episode,
Yeah.
so I won't be talking about made up famines and awful things like that.
That's one of the best episodes I've had to edit, listening back to that, because it was like, did he really say that? Yeah.
I'm starting to think that I'm going to change my LinkedIn job to co-host of Casting Views.
Yeah, no, bring it on. Well, yeah, I mean, you'll have to probably fight Justin of the Movie Wire for that as well.
Yeah.
But no, I think you're starting to do more shows. So let's call you honorary co-host for now. And we'll see how it goes.
Co-host doesn't get any of the royalties.
Yeah. That's why I'm not sending any cash your way. Yeah. Just because of the name check. Okay. So you've been on a number of episodes of mine and all sort of random ones. So I thought, what a great opportunity for the people to get to know you a bit better. Now, you've done the dinner party one, which I think is great. You were on with your brother, which I love doing those. But I think it's the mind wipe ones where you can really start to get to know someone.
Yeah, well, all you learn in the dinner party one are who some of my heroes are, and then why I think Tim's meal choices are disgusting. So, yeah, I'm really looking forward to this. I listened to the one with Josh from Talking Smack fairly recently. I listened to the Chat Tsunami one. I'll listen to that today. Oh no, that was a dinner one.
That was dinner party, yeah.
Ignore me. But I listened to the one with Josh, and I messaged you actually, and I said I know Josh quite well. I speak to Josh quite a lot and get on really well with Josh, but I feel like there are things I learned about him during that mind wipe, and it really showed another side to him that was really, really sweet, and I just thought, oh, I want some of that. So I said, Dan, get me on mind wipe, and here we are.
I've been looking forward to this one as well, because a couple of the topics, it'll be really interesting to see what you do pick. But just to go back to your dinner party one, I was going to say, actually, the thing I learned was how quick you are to get upset when when I didn't choose your menu.
I mean, I would love to sit here and go, no, absolutely not. That's not me. But yeah, if it doesn't go my way, Dan, I'll throw a little tantrum.
But also, no, I was going to say the fact that you and your brother, they both inspired me to do like my first ever trailer for a show as well.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I really hope that our trailers aren't the ones that it really inspired you, Dan. I really like your trailer that we use on Two Blokes from Blighty, and ours are just... I think our trailer for Two Blokes, I can't remember, it's been that long. I basically say, Tim, what are your favourite bits? And he goes, that bit where I told everyone that I pooed on a toilet seat. Like, okay, well, there's our trailer. If you want to hear more about that, tune in. And it seemed to get a pretty good reception. And then there's the one for the Game Club pod where I think I call it drivel in the trailer.
Will you keep downplaying your podcast? And again, I'm going to say it on here, and as uncomfortable as it makes you feel, yeah, I love the output on your feed. I've got to name them all now, but Game Club Pod and Two Blokes from Blighty are just always must listen. And you know that because I often send you reaction views or voice notes that I can imagine your WhatsApp, you going, oh, he's listened to an ep again, hasn't he? And yeah, you've got the anime corner, you've got the game changers, and there's, well, I'll say new one, but by the time this goes out, it's gone a few months. But driveway beers, so
yeah, Two Blokes from Bama is what we call that one internally. It's I feel like Game Club Pod started off, and we always said, oh, it's fortnightly. We don't, with three of us. It was Slade, Tim, and myself at that time, and we said, oh, we'll do fortnightly because we can record 2 at a time, and then we only have to like play 2 games in a month, and all of us played games anyway. And there was a point where Slade went, actually, I want to do something else. So we did Between Two Pods. And I thought, something else would be fun as well. So I thought the whole reason I got into podcasting was to hang out with Tim a bit more. Not that I don't love Slade, but I think being able to talk to him on a weekly basis is something that we missed out on for a little bit when life got busy and we grew up and moved to different parts of the country. And then Tim thought, I want to do my own thing. And he got Game Changers, which he's only had a few episodes of, but they're really interesting one. If you've not listened, Tim interviewed the guy who voices Johnny Cage in the latest Mortal Kombat, and then he interviewed a guy called Adam El Hagar, who is also a voice actor. He's in the latest Prince of Persia game, but he's also done things like Final Fantasy voiceovers and things like that. And then there were periods of time where we thought, we've got these regular shows and we don't have anything to put in them, so we made up these extra things, and they just kind of were like, that was fun, we should carry on doing it. And I was just telling you what our December schedule looks like, Dan, and I think what we're doing is definitely going for quantity over quality sometimes, but but it's fun, and we enjoy doing it, and we enjoy the reaction. And when Tim and I talk about the episode that you've just listened to in Discord, like, I genuinely love hearing what has gone over well and what people can relate to, and the questions about the mad stuff we talk about, and mainly Tim's wild experiences. It's just, I feel like podcasting has given a lot to us as the Game Club Pod, and it means that we have expanded to 4 of us because of the amount of content. And Alex is a great guy. The recently named Alex, he used to be the Northern Boy. But I feel like I'm very privileged to have met people like Alex, like Slade, like yourself, like Josh, like Satsu from Chatsunami, Robotic Battle Toaster, the Twitch streamer, and just people like the PodPack Collective, because without podcasting and without the sheer amount of stuff we put out, it just wouldn't happen. So we just keep doing it because we enjoy it, and if people like it, then people like it, and it feels good when that happens.
It's funny, isn't it, what podcasting has done? So even me, it's a similar kind of thing. That podcast started, I wanted to do something creative, and then it turned into something a lot more. And it is about the cliche. It is about the people I've met along the way, as they say. Seriously, so, first I fell in with the group that we call the Brain Trust. Then it's a PodPack Collective. But in between that, it was yourselves. Like I said, the paths you've crossed because of something simple as sitting in front of a microphone. Right?
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you something that might make you laugh, Dan. My friend that I work with, she's been mentioned on Two Blokes quite a lot. So asked what I'm doing this weekend. I said, I'm recording an episode with Dan, casting views tonight. And she replied, he's so lovely.
I'm blushing now. Oh.
So I feel like I really like you've got this name and this persona from Game Club Pod as just the lovely Dan for being a lovely guy.
You, yeah.
And well, no, thanks to you for being so lovely. And then if I say Josh Scar, people that listen to the podcast will know Josh, forget about it. And he sounds nothing like that, but it's because Tim and I knew that he's from somewhere near Chicago, and and Tim tried to do a Chicago accent, and it came out like a Boston accent, and it was like, I'm walking here, forget about it. And it just stuck. And these silly things are they're really fun with people that you've never been in the same room with. And I think COVID allowed quite a lot of us to do that, because, like, I'm sure people know when they listen to this that this is done remotely. Dan and I haven't met up, unfortunately, in a studio to record this, but it means that we can record with people from all across the world. So whenever I listen to Pilot Views and you have your other American guests other than Justin, it just allows you to have your kind of your web of friendship podcasts go that little bit further. And like I said, when I was listening to Josh's Mind Wipe, I thought, if it wasn't for this pod and our pod and his pod, we'd have never have connected and never got involved, never got to hear those lovely things he said about watching Packers games with his dad and how much it obviously meant to him. So yeah, I'm incredibly grateful for podcasting, but also for people like you, Dan, for pulling everyone together with episodes like this.
Oh, bless you. No, it's It's not about me, it's about you.
It's always about you to me, Dan.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because absolutely, as you say, and the fact is, I've been able to meet Antonio from the Cultworthy. I've met Justin, and I met Josh Wilson when he came over here. Yeah, 3 otherwise random people I would never have known, and I've had the ability to meet them. You're just a couple of streets away. I've not met you, which is the irony.
Couple of streets away,
No,
or
no.
2 hours drive.
Oh, sorry, a couple of hours. I always get those mixed up. But I just want to go back and see, and this chimes in with what I was about to say. You see, already we've not even started the episode yet. You said something interesting about starting the Game Club pod and wanting to do something else, and I think I was the same. Like, I can imagine if you're doing something solely like games. I'm not saying it's not an interesting thing, but I can see why you'd maybe want to scratch the itch to do something else. And even me, this started off doing random things every week, but I realised I actually just love talking to people like yourself. And so the dinner party episodes came about, and then thanks to Slade as well for kind of nudging me on this, doing a mind wipe. I just really enjoy more of this rather than... I still love doing the crazy episodes like Foolish Felons. Was out a couple of months ago, a month ago. Go listen to it, featuring the one and only Joey. But this I find even more fascinating, and it's given me the opportunity to do something different. And I was never going to be... I didn't want to be like a TV or film reviewer because there was a lot of those. I didn't want to be a game reviewer. I've now done Black Mirror. There's a couple more shows I've got planned, so I'll leave that there.
Keep them posh.
Yeah, because I don't want to turn into a reviewer, but again, it's going to just scratch that itch for wanting to talk about a TV show. So I can't wait to see what the next program you put out on your feed is.
Well, I mean, like I said, we were talking about our Podmas. I think this is the first time we've said we're actually doing it for 2024. So I'm not gonna ruin all of the surprises, but for we started in 2021 as a podcast, and we just did one episode every fortnight. And then 2022 we started adding more, but then we said at Christmas, let's do the 12 pods at Christmas. So leading up to Christmas Day, we did an episode every other day. There were some wild things in there. Like we did an episode of the Hunger Games where we basically put in the names of people that we have collaborated with or podcasts that we like into a Hunger Games generator and killed off all of the people that we got to know and like. And that was really fun. I
didn't last very long last year.
I didn't last very long in either of them. I think one of the years it came down to Tim and Slade, and
really?
I believe Tim killed Slade at the end. And that's why he's never on the podcast anymore. No, so but then we started doing stupid things like I would buy Tim and Slade a game for 50p or something like that, and they had to play it and review it like a mini episode, and they did the same to me. And I think this year, what we did last year was we stepped away a little bit more from the video game element. So we did like a D&D one-shot campaign. I'd never played D&D before. I've never played since. But that's making a return, or we plan for it to make a return. So it's to date this episode, it's the end of August now. We need to get a move on recording for all of these podcasts because there's a lot in there. But yeah, really looking forward to it. And I don't know if any of them will span proper long-running series, but things like we do a thing called the Last Chance Awards, and we release it on New Year's Eve every year, and it's your last chance to get an award in 2020 or 2024 this year, but 2023 last year. So that's, I guess, a long-running series that it would be good to carry on and keep as a staple of our Podmas, if you count New Year's Eve as part of Christmas. Yeah, so there's a lot to come down. Hoping to get you involved, hoping to hear all your feedback on what you hear as well.
We'll get the contract sorted out.
The big signing bonus, yeah.
Yeah. So this episode will go out towards the end of September. So listen out for that in a couple of months then. And actually, last week's episode will have been my podiversary as well. So it's funny because you were saying 21. So this pod turns 3 next month as we're recording. So
happy podiversary for last week, Dan.
Thank you very much. Now, It's funny you were talking about your trailers and saying what you thought of them, because I've decided I'm going to put one of your trailers in here now.
God. Okay.
I haven't decided which one yet, though. So it'll either be Game Club Pod or Two Blokes from Blighty. So you've got a surprise when you do come to listen to this. Before we play, do you do your sales pitch for your pod feed?
Listen to anyone in the PodPack Collective apart from Game Club Pod. They're very talented. And you find me enough here. I don't need to plug. You're already listening to this. So, no, the only thing I will plug of ours is I'm starting to stream a little bit more. And at time of recording, we've done a couple of streams this week, including ones with yourself, Dan, where we absolutely wiped the floor with people on Call of Duty. But I'm going to do some more single-player ones. And it's something that we did quite sporadically before, and it probably will be sporadic again, but they're always fun when people get involved. So that's Twitch. And the username is Game Club Pod, all one word, capital G, capital C, capital P, Game Club Pod.
I'll put the link in the show notes. And make sure you subscribe to the feed and listen to everything these guys do. So
if you've got the time, yeah.
So let's listen to one of your trailers.
It's going to be a surprise to me. I can't remember what they sound like. Hi, I'm a bloke.
And I'm another bloke.
And we are from Blighty. My name is Joey. I'm joined by my co-host Tim.
Hi.
Where every single Wednesday we come at you through the Game Club Pod podcast feed with our show, Two Blokes from Blighty. I tried to think about the kind of topics that we talk about on Two Blokes from Blighty. Tim, what's your favourite topic that we've ever spoken about across our 3 seasons?
The fiasco of me shaving my head.
Mine is the fiasco of you shitting on a toilet seat. If those sound like things you want to hear about, join us every Wednesday by searching Game Club Pod in your podcast provider.
Just makes my life sound a little bit tragic, really, doesn't it?
Would you listen to that show, Tim?
I would.
I don't think I would.
No.
Right, we are back. And that was a good either Game Club Pod trailer or Two Blokes from Blighty trailer, wasn't it, Joey? So...
Yeah, I mean, wow, they sound handsome.
Right, so look, let's go on to wiping your mind. So I know you've heard it before, but just explain it. So I'm going to wipe your mind. I'm going to throw a few subjects at you. You're going to give me 1 to 3 examples of each subject that you want to relive for the first time. They don't have to be the best thing, your most favourite items from this. So it doesn't have to be your most favourite film, but just the things you want to recapture that feeling the first time you listen to it. As always, I say the caveat is that you will enjoy it the same because games and stuff can date and age, and you might not like it now if you come back to it, but it's that feeling you first got. So I want to get the obvious one out the way with yourself. As you're from the Game Club Pod, let's do video games. Let's get that one out the way.
I was torn between 2 here. I'm going to start with the obvious one. So anyone that listens to our podcast or has been in a room with me for more than 16 seconds knows that I really like Dark Souls. Dark Souls, Soulsborne games, those really challenging ones from Software are my jam. They are. I love miserable media. I love challenging games. I feel like something that we lose a little bit going forward with gaming is that it's too easy. And I love the sense of accomplishment when you overcome a really hard area or boss. And I think there's something about boss fights in video games that it just makes you feel such a sense of achievement, which I don't think you get when you play, like, I don't want to like dump on other games, but a very easy one would be Super Mario. It's just like a bit of a stroll through, and people like that, and that's great. All power to them. But for me, I feel like there has to be something to overcome. And Dark Souls 3, the reason I chose that one is I've done every game in the Souls series, apart from Demon Souls, because you can't get it anywhere other than on PlayStation. But the order I did them in was Dark Souls 3, Dark Souls 1, Dark Souls 2, Bloodborne, Sekiro, Elden Ring. And between them, I think I've put about 400 to 500 hours into them.
Oh, blimey.
But there's something about the way that FromSoft build a universe, and something about the way that they don't tell you a story. You're kind of dropped into the middle of Dark Souls, but the story is there, and it's told through environment and item descriptions. And if you get into it, YouTubers like Vati Video is the big one for Dark Souls. He gives you all the backstory if you can't piece it together in the game. But there's a boss in Dark Souls 3, the Dancer of the Boreal Valley is what she's called. And you can approach this in two ways. She can either be the like 10th or 11th boss, where she's really, really challenging, or you can accidentally trigger her as the second boss in the game, and you can just get your ass handed to you over and over and over again. But everything about Dark Souls is made in a way that's very intentional. The music's beautiful, the setting's beautiful, the gameplay is unbelievably solid. It's hard as hell. It is really tricky, but if you adapt your playstyle to combat what the game is kicking your ass with, there is rhyme and reason as to why you were getting defeated over and over again. You know, like, I used to basically exclusively play like FIFA, and I used to get so annoyed at FIFA because whenever someone scored a goal against me, I was like, I was doing everything right to defend that goal.
Yeah.
This is the game being out to get me, or it's going soft on for the other person. But Dark Souls, every time when you die, it pops up, and the words "you died" appear in big letters on the screen. And every time you see "you died," I think I did, and that was my fault. So it was my fault that I died that way. And I've never played something that's so difficult but so not frustrating at the same time. It's if you haven't ever played one, don't let the community can be really helpful, but can also be full of people who are quite full of themselves. And there's a saying of get good.
Yeah,
if someone says, "Oh, how do I beat this boss?" the answer is always get good. But if you can get past that, these games are immaculate.
I did play a demo before it came out at one of the Eurogamer exhibitions in London once. I remember playing it. Now,
nice.
I love how you love these games. Like, I love people who've got real passion for something that I'm not into, right? Now, the thing is, I think I've said to you a couple of times, I love the idea of these games. I really want to play these games, but you've seen how frustrated I get at Call of Duty, right? So,
but it's different. Yeah. It is different because Call of Duty is exactly what I said about FIFA.
Yeah.
I feel like sometimes when you die on Call of Duty, it's just not your fault. And the fact that you're not against another person, there's no skill barrier between you and the computer. Everything's on a very level playing field with Dark Souls, I think. So, and if you can't beat a boss, there is nothing stopping you staying in the area before the boss and leveling up to level 100. It'll take you ages.
Yeah.
But you'll be so much more powerful than the boss, you could probably beat them in one shot.
Yeah, because I've really been tempted by Elden Ring, but apparently that's harder than Dark Souls.
Elden Ring is definitely, I think it's the hardest one of all of them. If you want a recommendation for a starter one, I think Sekiro might be the most accessible.
Really? Okay.
It's really hard. It's probably more difficult in the later game. There are some bosses in there where you think, well, they're not the best design because they're more angled towards the boss's favour than yours. But the central mechanic is around blocking in Sekiro rather than combat itself. So you can't upgrade your weapons in Sekiro. You're just given a weapon.
Okay.
So it takes that level of complication out of it.
Okay. All right. Very good. So we start off with Dark Souls 3.
I did say there's two. I'll keep the other one really quick. It's Banjo-Kazooie. So Banjo-Kazooie on the Nintendo 64, yeah. So when Tim and I were growing up, our first console was the Nintendo 64, and I tussled between Banjo-Kazooie and Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time for our first one. But we ruined Banjo-Kazooie. We played it so much that the cartridge stopped working. Yeah, it was just, it was our introduction to gaming. It was the first one that we really, really took seriously, which is mad for a game about a bear carrying a bird in his backpack. But it's just fun. It's just good fun. And you can get it in the Rare Replay bundle on Xbox. Yeah. And it's exactly what you said. I've played it since and thought, it's good, but it's got nothing on how it used to make me feel when we were little. So Banjo-Kazooie holds a very special place in my heart. Dark Souls 3 holds a very special place in my brain, etched in there as the first Souls game that I actually beat.
It's interesting when you said those two, like Banjo-Kazooie and Zelda. I mean, obviously Zelda, classic game, right? But I was wondering if you're going to say Banjo-Kazooie, because again, it's just, there's that fun element about it, isn't it? Just that very cartoony, over the top sort of humour.
Yeah. Well, we played Ocarina of Time for the podcast, and it's not aged well. Like, anyone that says it's the best Zelda game, I urge you to go back and play it, because I played it and I did not have a good time with it at all. I think we gave it like a 5 out of 10 overall.
Oh, wow.
For something with as legendary status as Ocarina of Time. It's the building blocks to the later Zelda games, is what I would say. But Banjo-Kazooie is the opposite. If you're going to play them, play the early ones, because the new ones are rubbish.
And you mentioned Rare Replay. I mean, if you've got Xbox, get that. That's a wonderful collection, isn't it?
Have you played Conker's Bad Fur Day?
Do you know what? I don't think I've got around to playing that properly, actually. It's probably the one
I won't spoil anything for you. Check it
out.
out.
Banjo-Kazooie, isn't it?
Well, sort of. Mainly. I think that's the gimmick. But there's a boss fight, there's a big singing poo, and the final boss is the Xenomorph from Alien. It's
see, that's my wild. Dark Souls then. So you got Dark Souls 3 and Banjo-Kazooie. Was it those two, or did you have?
Yes, no, just two.
Just those two. Okay. I love the kind of the absolute opposite ends. Although, you know, Banjo-Kazooie is not an easy game.
No. Well, I said, like, games are too easy nowadays. They weren't back in those, because you didn't have, like, multiplayer or DLC to pad out the runtime. So they just made them, like, really difficult.
It's funny. I mean, I don't want to sound like the old man that I am, but when you were saying that, it's true. Games really are. The majority of games now, like, and I'm doing the quotes, you know, adventure games, are just walk this way, do that quest, walk this way, do that quest. Whereas, when I was playing games back in the day, it was either single screen games where you just had to get your reaction time up or learn how to play it. You didn't have anyone holding your hand, even though internet cheat guide internet sort of walkthroughs or anything like that.
No, but like, if you remember, like, the way that games used to be designed is I have in my Steam library probably 300 games, and I would say I've played, I can tell you I've got 448 games in my Steam library. I would say that I've probably played about 40 of them. But games weren't like that back in the day. They cost like 30 or 40 pounds. And that was a lot of money. So you got one, and then you played it to death.
Absolutely.
So they had to be hard, otherwise you wouldn't bother. Tim and I told a story on the podcast where he got Pokemon Snap for his birthday, and we completed it in a weekend, and my dad was so offended he took it back to the shop and got a refund on the Monday. We played that again for the podcast, and it was so bad. It was worse than I remember. It was so bad that we just stopped talking about the game and scored it really low, and then just had a chat for the rest of the episode, which has never happened again, or never happened before or since. So,
all right, let's move on and let's do something totally different. Let's go on to sports. So 3 sporting moments or events, and again, as I said before, these aren't ones you had to have either been part of or been to. They can be something that you've witnessed. So yeah, up to 3 sporting events.
So I have only been to one of my sporting events, and I don't know if one of them even counts as a sporting event, Dan. One of them could come under shows or musicals. It's not musical, it is a show. The first one I'll talk about, and I spoke to Josh about this a while ago. Growing up, I used to love WWF at the time, and the ones I really liked were the Dudley Boys. They were just these 2 guys who just loved being crazy and smashing people through tables. And WWF keep their fans engaged that used to like that kind of thing, because they have a bit more of a watered down product now. And they bring back these old guys, like, wheeling out these guys who can't do it like they used to anymore, and going, look, these existed, you should keep watching. But they brought back the Dudley Boys for a short time, and the episode that they did, I didn't even watch live. I just saw the highlights of it on Twitter, and I was like, oh my God, I got goosebumps while they did it. And there's this bit where there's a tag team in WWE called The New Day, and they're made up of 3 guys that are there regularly. They're pretty annoying. I think people don't really like them. I'm not sure. I find them really annoying. and the Dudley boys come out and they just smack 7 bells out of them. And the way that they do it, they throw 2 of them out the ring, and the Dudley boys used to have this move called the 3D. And Bubba Ray Dudley has these massive thick glasses held together with tape. Devon Dudley is another massive guy. They wear vest tops and camo trousers. And Devon Dudley is called Devon, I believe, because he used to be Reverend Devon. His character used to be a priest.
Right.
So what Bubba Ray Dudley does is he gets his hands and he looks off in the air, and everyone knows what he's doing. And he slaps Devon on the chest and goes, "Devon, get the tables!" And the whole crowd goes, "Get the tables!" And Devon's just hyped, and they put one of them through the table, and oh man, what I would do to have been there for that. That arena just looked like it exploded. It was absolutely immense. So that's one of mine. The return of the Dudley boys. Once again, don't know if it can be classed as sport.
Well, I think so. But just on this, sorry, yeah, I mean, it's interesting what you said about watered down product now, because it's going to Netflix, isn't it, next year? So there's talk that it might, because now that on there, I think I saw, it might have been Triple H or someone, a wrestler saying that, well, they're not on a network then, so they don't have to pander to sponsors on network. So it could be interesting.
Could be. I don't know if it'll ever get back to as I used to know and love it. I think to be honest, even now, if I did go back to watching it, I don't think I'd enjoy it as much. I've watched one since of matches that I really enjoyed, and I just thought, wow, this is really full on. There's one that I remember, and it was The Rock versus Mankind, and it was an I Quit match. So the only way that he could win is getting someone to say in the microphone that they quit. And the way he did it, The Rock, is he handcuffed Mankind's hands behind his back and just kept wailing on him with a chair. And you watch it and you just think, bloody hell. I know that like a lot of it's fake, but some of the bumps they take are real nasty. Yeah, if they go back to that, I don't think I'd be able to watch. I can't watch MMA. I can't watch it when people actually get hurt.
What a product it was when Kane took electrical, what was it, what are they called? Jump leads, wasn't it, to Shane McMahon's tender area.
Undercarriage, yeah. But I don't think I could watch it. I think as I've gotten older, I'm like, oh, I can imagine how much that hurts the next day. But it would be interesting to see. And there's a documentary, like The Rise and Fall of Vince McMahon, coming out that looks really good. So I'll check that out. It'll be no surprise to you, Dan, that the other two are football related.
Oh, and I wonder what they could be linked to.
One of them is England.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And I'm not the biggest fan of international football. I think most of the time it's really boring. But international tournaments, it takes me a game or two to get into them. But when it goes well, it's beautiful, isn't it? So one of them's actually from the Euros just gone. And I was really critical of the England performance in the Euros just gone. I used to say, I feel so sorry for people that only watch England because it's turgid and it's terrible. But Ollie Watkins' last-minute winner against Netherlands, oh my God, it was electric. It was, I think that was the game that put us through to the final, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I say us. I know you're an Italy man.
And just for people listening, Joey is it'll probably come out in the next one, but is an Aston Villa fan. So there's a double link there with it being a great goal for England and also one of your own.
One of our own. But I think that probably feeds into why I enjoyed it so much. So I watched this in a tent on my phone while my son was asleep. So I couldn't be loud. And I watched it and I could hear people in the caravans around me going mad. And I was like, wow, like that's a guy I go and watch every single week. And he's not England's starting striker. I didn't think he'd even get on the pitch this tournament, but to pull out a moment of absolute brilliance like that,
it was a great goal.
Just unbelievable.
Yeah, it was a great goal for a young lad. How old is he?
He's 26 or 7, maybe 28.
Well, to me, he's young, but yeah, I thought he was younger than that. Yeah,
yeah. But I said to you, and if you listen to Just Football, I had a whole section on there about that goal, didn't I?
Yes, you did. Yeah.
I am your Aston Villa correspondent. But yeah, that goal was. I think you can just. I think the thing I really liked about it was one. It was Villa guy. He's not on the pitch very often for England, but you could just see it in his face. Like the ball hit the back of the net, and you could look at his face, and he was like, "What the hell do I do? I didn't. Don't know how to contain myself." And then he runs off and does his regular celebration.
And also, as you were saying, without being harsh, it was probably one of the true highlights for that team as well, wasn't it? Up till then, it wasn't great, was it?
Jude Bellingham's bicycle kick was the other one.
Oh yeah, but that was another last second goal, wasn't it?
Apart from that, it was not. Yeah. It was really poor performance.
Yeah.
I mean, we could talk about this England team for a long time, Dan, but I'll move on to my final one.
Okay.
And I'll make it quick because you've heard me gush about Villa a lot.
But the listeners haven't, so it's fine.
Yeah, they don't need to hear this. So Villa, I started following Villa, and I've told you this, I think, on Just Football, the year that Martin O'Neill left, which was like Villa at their peak, really. So I watched Villa get progressively worse, and then relegated, and then come back up again. And the season that we came up, we survived in the final game of the season. Jack Grealish scored a goal against West Ham, and we drew the game 1-1, which kept us up by a point. But that season, we reached the League Cup final, and I got to go and watch my team at Wembley. That wasn't the moment. It was a rubbish game, and we lost. But the game before, the semi-final, we played Leicester, and there was 2 moments in that game. I would relive that whole game. It was absolutely incredible. There was 2 moments. So we had a goalkeeper in Oyen Nyland, who was useless. He had about 3 good games for us in the 4 years he was at Villa, and this was one of them. So I remember really well, James Maddison took a shot from the outside of the box, and it was the opposite end of the ground to where we sit. And Nyland gets the faintest of touches on it that puts it over the crossbar. And Chris, who I go to the games with, turned to me and he just went, if he got a touch on that, that is absolutely one of the best saves I've ever seen. And it's one of the only times at Villa Park that they show a save in really like mega slow motion. When they showed that he got a touch on it to send it over and not in, the whole ground got a standing ovation in the middle of the game for Oyen Nyland for that performance. It was unlike anything I've ever seen. And the other one in that game was another last minute winner. It was something that football does to you. But Ahmed El Mohammadi, who is, he's I don't want to say a Villa legend. He likes the place and people tend to like him, but he was never brilliant. He crossed the ball to Trezeguet, who was the other side of the pitch, and it was 1-1. And it was like the last second, and he just knocked it across goal and past Kasper Schmeichel. And it's the only time I've seen a pitch invasion at Villa Park.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah, I replaced my phone background the day after from my wedding day to a picture of Tyrone Mings being carried by the Villa fans on the pitch at Villa Park.
Wow.
I'd like to say that my wife really didn't mind, but she gave me a look. But yeah, football does funny things. It's more of a cult than it is a sport.
Yeah, and there is something about a last-second goal or a last-second winner, isn't there? There's just something about it.
Yeah, and I think when you posed this question to me, I could have had all 3 be Villa, but I wanted to make it a bit varied for your audience, because if I spoke about Villa for 20 minutes, you'd see retention out the door.
For part 2. No, because Villa obviously doing well, so I'm going to tag them all the time now. That's the ploy. Yeah.
Smart.
Yeah.
TikTok algorithm for you there, Dan.
Yeah. Okay, so Dudley Boys, again, very different picks here. So Dudley Boys return, Ollie Watkins' goal for England, and the semi-final win for Villa. So let's now head back to entertainment, and let's do... Well, tell you what, which do you want to do first, films or TV?
Let's do TV first.
All right, let's do films. Right, no, let's do films. 3.
Dan just did what every good TV show does, and subverted your expectations.
No, so give me your TV shows then.
So I only have one for my TV show.
Okay.
And it's the pinnacle of TV for me, and it's Breaking Bad.
Okay,
Breaking Bad is unreal. I started watching Breaking Bad when I was at university in my second year. because I was really hungover and I went, I don't know what to watch. And so I said, oh, Breaking Bad's all right. So I just put the first episode on, and then I watched the second episode, then I watched the third and the fourth, all in one sitting. And then I looked at the clock and went, oh, I've missed my coach home by about 2 hours. And I've never been sucked into a show like that. There are moments in that show that are like, I don't know the best way of describing them. They kind of epitomize why the show is so good, because it goes in one direction and then it's a character study, and you can see the moment where a character changes. So can I say spoiler warning for Breaking Bad if you've not seen it?
Yeah.
You should have seen it by now, but there's a moment in the third or fourth season, I can't remember, where a drug dealer kills a child who's can't remember whether he's selling the drugs or what, but he gets killed, and Jesse, who's one of the main protagonists, it's sort of an anti-hero for both of them, but Jesse goes out and he's got a gun in his pocket and he's going to shoot this guy, and Walter White, who is like, he's a meth making wizard because he's a chemistry teacher. He's always been very like, I'll make meth, but that's the only way I'm breaking the law. And there's a scene where Jesse pulls the gun out to kill this drug dealer who's killed a kid, and Walter White runs over him, the drug dealer, with his Prius. And it's so like sudden, and he gets out the car and he just looks Jesse in the eyes and goes, run. And that's the moment where Walter White goes from Walter White, the chemistry teacher, to Heisenberg, and becomes the cartel that he's been arguing and fighting with for a long time. And it's moments like that I think will stick with me when it comes to film, comes to me with TV for forever, really. They also did that thing that I really hate in TV where they split seasons into part 1 and part 2. And it was season 5, and I was watching on Netflix, and Hank, who is Walter White's brother-in-law, is sat on the toilet. He's part of the DEA, and he's been trying to find who this Heisenberg is without knowing it's Walter White for 5 seasons. And he sat on the toilet at Walter's house, and he takes this book that he just starts reading, and on the cover of it, a character has written, "To my dearest WW, Walter White," and then it cuts round to his face, and you can just see the moment. It's acted so perfectly. You can see the moment where he feels like he knows who it is, so he's got his man, but the betrayal of it being his brother-in-law. And I sat there and I watched it, and I've never done it before or since, and I went, no, like I knew what was coming, and just talking about it's putting the hair on the back of my neck stand on edge. And then we had to wait for months for part 2 of season 5, and they used to release it weekly. It was one of the first streaming service weekly releases, and I was working in a call center at the time, and I started at 10 o'clock in the morning, and I used to wake up 3 or 4 hours before my shift, earlier than I need to, so I could watch Breaking Bad, so I could get to work so that no one would spoil the episode for me. Yeah, absolutely mind-blowing TV show.
It's funny because I got to see it. I've only seen it the once, and I've forgotten a lot about it, but I saw it late, so it was already released. And at the time, my wife didn't want to watch it, so I was watching it on my own. And I tend to, like, she can watch a show for hours on end, right? I start losing interest. Even if I like it, I start losing interest after about an hour and a half or so, right? So I can only watch 2 or 3 episodes, maybe 2-hour-long episodes, or if it's half hour, maybe 3. Now, this show is probably the only one I myself have binge watched and couldn't get enough of. I had to watch it. Now, as you say, I think it's all about the characters, isn't it? And the thing you say about Hank finding out and ultimately what happens there, for me, was just compelling viewing.
It was incredible.
Yeah. And like the other scenes that have always stayed with me from that is like Gus, isn't it? When what happens to him, he just walks out, doesn't he? And then it turns. There's just so many great scenes. And I've forgotten his name. Who's the actor who plays Walter White?
Oh, Bryan Cranston.
Bryan Cranston, just fabulous, isn't he?
Oh, he is. Yeah, he's great. I think that so similar to your wife, my wife hates Breaking Bad with a passion. She doesn't like TV shows where she doesn't think any of the characters are likable, and none of the characters in Breaking Bad are likable. They're all awful, which is why I love it. can't get enough of it, because I think I've said to you, Dan, like, villains are so much more interesting than heroes.
Absolutely, yeah.
I think I love knowing the motives of something that isn't just like, oh, to be the good guy. And I love, like, Breaking Bad starts off because Walter White has cancer and they can't fund the treatment. They don't have the money to fund the treatment. So he's like, oh, what's profitable? And when he goes on this drug bus with his brother-in-law, he sees how much money they're making. He's like, well, I can make meth. So he makes meth and he makes money. And it spirals from that. But I just, there's something about Breaking Bad. I think it's perfect. I think it's shot beautifully. It shows Albuquerque is not, it's not the most aesthetically pleasing place in the world, but the long shots of the desert and then making their little bungalow house feel as claustrophobic and then as vast as they do in the shooting of it is just unbelievable.
Just on what you said about villains, yeah, absolutely. Because there's a few times, like, my wife also, yeah, she's got to like the characters. I tend to like watching all like the gangster films and stuff like that, like the mafia films, like The Godfather. I love, and she'll say, "Are we supposed to like them?" I said, "No, you're not supposed to like them. You're supposed to, this is showing why they're doing what they're doing, or it's a story about these villains. I'm not sitting here rooting for them. I'm caught up I'm invested in that life that they've chosen to do, and I like you said, it is that whole mind of the villain, why they're doing what they're doing and what they're contending with."
Well, another thing I like watching, and it's not something I planned on talking about, I love watching documentaries about cults. I feel like there's something about a cult leader that is, like, I love trying to understand how someone has been that charismatic that they just create a community around them. And they're like real life villains, I think. I'm not saying cults are great or anything. Don't clip that, please, Dan.
Not the views of Casting Views.
Me on TikTok just going, cults are wonderful, aren't they?
Yeah.
But I think like there's a really interesting documentary on Netflix called it's something about this country, but it's about this cult leader who sets up in just a big 500-acre thing in the middle of America, and they try and get their way into Parliament. They do that by like sending out greyhounds and promising homeless people beer and food and shelter and just bringing them to this tiny little town of about 60 inhabitants. And there was like 7,000 or 8,000 people living there by the end of it. It is absolutely amazing. I'll try and remember the name.
Yeah.
It's fascinating.
Okay. All right. No, that was an interesting chat there as well. So we know a little bit more about what makes your brain tick there.
Well, let's not look too much in that, but yeah.
Okay. Let's change it up again. Have you got any life events? I'll put life events to you.
I know you always preface this, but I've gone with one that you say you don't need to do.
No, that's fine if you have done, but yeah, let's go for it.
You always say like you don't need to do your wedding day or the birth of your children, but mine is my wedding day. And my wedding day, we were married the 2nd of November 2018, and we got married in Dudley in a registry office, and it was a really nice registry office, and ceremony was lovely. But the after bit was, we had a pretty small wedding. We had 70 people was the max number at our after party, but I think that allowed us to make sure it was a room full of people that we really loved. And the amount of people that say afterwards, like, I love weddings. Weddings are great fun. Everyone gets really drunk. Everyone's really happy at a wedding, unless you go to a drama-filled wedding, which I've not yet been to. I just feel like everyone's there, and it's like everyone is in the mood for a wedding when they go to a wedding.
Yeah.
But the amount of people that have gone up to us in the last few years and been like, I still think about how fun your wedding was. It was this tiny little venue. It was like a cafe that they closed, and they had a courtyard, and we had a DJ. But the DJ played a Spotify playlist that we made. And as the night went on, all of my friends just took over his DJ decks. And I'm like, you can go and have a beer, mate. And we had our first dance to May by the Gaslight Anthem.
Okay.
I don't know if you've heard it, but the lyrics in it stay the same, don't ever change, because I'd miss your ways. And it really makes me feel a bit warm inside when I hear that song.
Yeah.
And we ended up, a lot of my friends that I went to school with and myself, metalheads, and they love metal. And we had our neighbours who were quite elderly, and there was like heavy metal blasting out the speakers. And I remember really, really vividly Maureen and David, my old next door neighbours, sat in the chair looking at each other like, not sure this is my scene. But yeah, I don't know. Everything about the day was perfect, and it felt like it was really us. It didn't feel like it was a wedding based on what a wedding should be.
Is what you wanted.
It was what we wanted. And things like so Jenny didn't have a bouquet of flowers that were flowers. I took her on our first ever date was to go and see The Hobbit in the cinemas. Why she stayed with me, I have no idea. I bought a copy of The Hobbit, and then I made a bouquet of roses out of the book The Hobbit.
Okay.
And I did the same for...
Look at you.
I know, it sounds really impressive. When I tell everyone that, they go, "Oh, that's amazing." Because I did all like the lapel badges as well for everyone, and made all the favours with these handmade roses.
Yeah. It
must have taken me about 100 hours to put together these roses. I'll show you a picture of them when I get a chance.
Please,
but it was... She was beautiful. The only thing I had to drink between getting up and getting married was Jägermeister. It was just... If I could go back and live one day in my life, it would be November the 2nd, 2018.
Well, you can take me back with you now, because you know me. That's the only thing I was going to say. Sounds great, but I just wasn't there. That's the only...
Yeah, and then the DJ, don't need the metal music. We'll just play Casting Views.
Play Villa Chants.
Yeah. Do you know what? Actually, you say that. Another thing that made it good, Villa were in the Championship, and we were playing Bolton that day, and we won 2-0. I can tell you the goal scorers, Dan. James Chester and Albert Adoma scored the goals against Bolton away that day. So
such a fan.
Yeah.
No, look, I often say to people they don't have to choose that, because I don't want them to feel they have to. But if it's a good, lovely experience like you said that, and I want to see that picture. So.
Yeah, I'll get that for you.
So the wedding day, yep. You want another subject, or was there anything else in that one? Or
no, I don't think anything else needs to be said. I hope people could hear from the sound of my voice. It almost gets me a bit emotional. The wedding day, it was unbelievable.
And you call me lovely. Listen to you.
I'm soft. There's a big difference, Dan.
No, it's when you've got a genuinely happy day, it leaves an impact, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
Let's move on to then music. And so I know I was a bit vague with that, but so it's going to be like bands or albums specifically.
Okay. One band. No surprises. Told you about more than once. They have had a profound impact on my life. And Shikari are the one. I think I spoke about them in our Who's Coming to Dinner, because I invited Rao Reynolds, the lead singer. So Dan included sport because I told him I don't read. I don't read books. I actually said I don't and can't read, but I've got 2 of Rao Reynolds' books. Okay. 2 of the only books I've read in the last few years. They are... Oh, sorry, Dan. I need to get the names of these books. I had to go back for a second look, because I'll tell you the title of one of them and you'll realise why I forgot it so quickly. It's called A Treatise of Possibilities.
Okay, yeah.
And it's Perspectives of Humanity by Rao Reynolds. I just think that they started off as your kind of typical Kerrang screamo band, when screamo techno kind of became a thing, and I actually didn't like them. I didn't think they were very good. And then their second album came out, and there's a song on there called Juggernauts, and it's all about the Iraq War and war in Afghanistan. I thought, well, maybe there's something about these. They're not just making up songs about the girl that I never got or whatever. Yeah. But the point where I really liked them from there. The next album was great. I got to meet them around that time. Really lovely blokes, but they were kind of like, really enjoyed them, but didn't really gel with them in a way that I do now, because the album The Spark is the one that I would have in my mind wipe. It was written at a time when Ryan Reynolds was like suffering really serious mental health issues, and I feel like there's a few songs on there. So there's one called Airfield, and it's got some of the most profound lyrics I've ever heard in it, and it's all about him and self-doubt, and the lyrics are things like, it's hard to take off when you're all wings and no elbows, and it's about being like hamstrung by what you know you can do, and yeah, he writes a lot about there's a song on there called Shinrin Yoku, and it's a Japanese word that the loose translation, there isn't a translation in English, but it's all about cleansing your soul with nature, and it's about going out into nature and feeling better for it. And there's a line in there that is, my lungs filled with air, I feel supercharged. And there's a line where he says, and I feel like an empty inbox. And when you work on a computer in an Excel and Outlook all day, the feeling of an empty inbox is wonderful, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I really like that. But then there's other ones in there. There's a song called Take My Country Back, and this was released around the time of Brexit. And you look at that and you think, oh, it's a bit risky, isn't it? And Ishikari are never on the fence for anything. He's made a real point of that. And Take My Country Back, the words in it are, I don't want to take my country back, I want to take my country forward. Everyone's reaching for the choirs, words bellow up and get trapped in church spires. And it's all about like small town people being pissed off at things because they've heard at the local church by someone who has no experience of it. And I feel like I align with what they say. They have a real, like, you should be who you want to be. Everyone is a person. Everyone is equal mentality. And I really align with that. And they're very outspoken on how they feel about their country being run. And it's not music that's made for selling, if that makes sense. It's not cookie cutter music.
It's for its fan base. It's for a mindset.
Yeah, I think so. I actually think it's more for... It's a bit more like a vanity project, because if they release songs where they say like Brexit, sorry for my swearing, I've tried really hard not to swear throughout this, Dan.
I'll do a two blokes or a game club pub and put a bleep there.
Don't do that, it'd be a mess. If they release the song and just basically say, well, this Brexit was stupid, it's going to alienate a lot of people, but they don't care because that's what they believe in, and they won't put out music that they don't believe in. I don't know if I've ever shown you. I can show you, Dan. It's not very good for a visual medium. Hold on, so that there.
I was going to ask, yeah.
This is I have a number of tattoos for English Curry, but this one here is a satellite in space, and the song that it's from is called Satellites, and underneath it says We Are Satellites, and the song itself is about someone who's trapped in the closet, and he says, we refrain from touch, we are satellites. And it's all about how he's kind of in love with someone, but they can't act upon it because of how it's perceived within the community they grow up in. Ryan Reynolds isn't gay. He's not bisexual. He's a straight cis man. But he wants to create a community where people can be and celebrated for who they really are. So they release these pro LGBT songs, and no one expects it because they've never really spoken up and gone, well, everyone's welcome here. It's just, I feel like they're just awesome guys. They're just lovely guys, and they make good music, and some of it's really heavy, some of it is heartbreaking. There's a song called Ode to a Lost Jigsaw Piece, which is all about his nan passing away. There's a line in it where he says, this is tough, man. I've lost more pieces of my jigsaw. It don't feel worth making now, Nan. And it sounds like, if you listen to it the first time, it sounds like he says, it doesn't feel like it's worth making this jigsaw now, man, because he's just said that. But he actually, it's directed towards his nan because of how hard he found it when she passed away. But his voice just cracks when he says it. And it makes it, when you hear it, you can never unhear it. And it adds such another layer of emotion and feeling behind the words on that album. There are some songs on there that aren't about that kind of stuff, but The Spark itself some of the lyrics. If you listen to one song and listen to Airfield, it might not be everyone's cup of tea, but the words at the end are, when the wind's against you, remember this in sight. That's the optimal condition for birds to take flight. So when the wind's against you, don't give up the fight. And I love those words.
And
love them.
If anyone listened to you talking about them on the dinner party episode again, you can tell then that it made you feel emotional then. And I think I'm okay to say that, you know, isn't it? Because this isn't just a band whose music you like. This is, as you said, you connect with, right? Isn't it? So, and again, I love when people have got that kind of attachment to something, or passion, sorry, I should say, rather than attachment.
Well, I think it is an attachment. I feel very strongly about how Enchikari makes me feel. There are people that have taken the mick out of me before, because I used to bang on about them 24/7. I still do, really. And people will say, "Oh, they're a bit rubbish. They're not my kind of thing." And that's fine. That's fine. They're not your thing, but they mean a lot to me. And them and Enchikari and Metallica, the only two bands I'll ever buy their albums. Everything else gets streamed on Spotify, but Metallica is kind of an old one. I've always just enjoyed the music. But Enchikari, it feels like I need to have the physical media. I don't have any way to play their CDs unless I stick it in the Xbox, which I'm not going to do. I'll buy the CD and I'll stream it on Spotify. But I feel like there's some kind of affinity there between me and Enchikari that I need to have their CD.
I think what you said actually a couple of sentences ago is the key thing, and we forget that about sport and music. They've both got the ability to make you feel something, right?
Yeah.
And that's exactly it, isn't it? You know, without wanting to sound sort of cliche or dramatic about it.
It does. And on that note, Dan, I wish you all the best with getting Oasis tickets.
Yeah. Let's see. This is being recorded the night before. I didn't get pre-sale ballot, which has upset me. And I think I saw a tweet. You've really sideswiped me there now. I saw a tweet saying that with the expected demand and the amount of tickets, the odds of getting a ticket are basically like 2.3% or something.
Really?
Of getting a ticket.
There's more than 1 million available for this tour.
Yeah.
Would you go to another city for it?
I don't think so, because we were saying beforehand, I was at 96 Nebworth. I saw Liam at Nebworth 2 years ago, so probably not, because it's then you'd have to stay, and it's, you know, the cost of accommodation is going to be.
Oh yeah.
So, well, they're reformed now. They're going to keep touring, and they'll be.
I think they'll
add
more dates. I think they'll add more dates.
I think they will. What I'm hoping for, although I think I'd get tickets for that, is in 26 it'll be 30 years of Nebworth. So I'm hoping they do that then.
There's a chance.
Yeah. And that's just down the road, so I'll just drive up and say 2 tickets to Oasis, please. Yeah.
And they'll go, of course, sir. Here's your parking space.
Hopefully, I'll still be doing casting views then, so I'll see if I can get a press pass or something.
Yeah, it's likely. It's likely.
Yeah. Okay. Right. So let us move on to. Tell you what, let's do the companion to TV. Let's do films.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So for films. I've written 7.
Wow. Okay.
We spoke about 7 the other day. It's not my favourite film.
Oh, I thought you meant 7 films. Sorry.
No. The film 7.
I was going to say, right. Well, we're going to have to cut these down. Okay.
No. 7 is the film. SE7VEN is how it's spelled on the poster. Brad Pitt, Morgan Freeman, and Kevin Spacey in the film. Now, Kevin Spacey has done some pretty abhorrent things since 7, so I'm not glorifying him, but his performance in this is good. So I studied film and television production at university, and we did 4 modules on 7, and 7 is one of the most intelligently shot films I've ever watched. The cinematographer is a guy called Darius Kunji. The man is a genius when it comes to telling a story with what's on screen without a single word. So there's the premise of 7 is there's a serial killer and he's killing people based on the 7 deadly sins. And it follows Morgan Freeman and Brad Pitt as they try and work out his motive and stop this killer played by Kevin Spacey. He's called John Doe in the film because they never release his name. But there's a scene where, for the sin of lust, they go to this dungeon, sex dungeon thing where people go and they pay for like sick pleasure, as it's put in the film. And there's like I think it's about 12 seconds where they're walking down into, slowly lowering into this basement, and they go past this brick wall, which is quite you'd never notice it unless I've told you this and you've listened. The bricks are a funny shade of brick colour, and then the door is green, and the numbering on the door is cracked. And we took this 12 seconds at university, and they made us write a 2,500 word paper on it. And the stuff Darius Kunji does with that is mind-blowing. And I think I have this added love for this film because I think I told you the other night, one of our modules was to recreate the camera setup and the lighting setup of a scene where Brad Pitt and his wife have invited Morgan Freeman's character over for dinner. And we went away and we had like a week to do this and draw out the floor pans and decide what lights, what shade of filter to put over the lights, what camera, what lens we want to use, etc., etc. And people were just like, I have no idea what to do. So they spent ages, and people had like stacks of floor plans that they were making to recreate this scene. And on like day 2, when I'd gone through 10, 11 sheets of paper, I thought, that's not going to work. That's not going to look right. It didn't look right in our testing. I thought, it's very easy to find out who the cinematographer is of this. I found him, Darius Kunji. I found his email address. And I emailed him and I said, look, I've got to do this. I need to recreate it. Can you give me any tips? And I expected no response. He responded about 2 days and he said, yeah, I keep all of my floor plans. Here's the floor plan. That's all I asked him for.
Brilliant.
But he said, I've kept the floor plan. These are the lights I used. I tilted them at this angle roughly. Here's the camera we used. Here's the lens we shot. And we got full marks on the
brilliant.
The thing. And when the tutor said, well, this is great. How did you do it? Tell me through your thinking on why you put that there. And I asked him. I asked him and he responded, and people were like, are you kidding me? I spent so long coming up with that. And I just,
though. That's such a great story.
Yeah, he's really cool. We kept in touch a little bit afterwards, and I would ask him about some of his films. And he did another one called Delicatessen, and it's a French film about this hotel in France after a nuclear bomb has gone off. It's very Fallout, and each person has their own floor. Each person living in the hotel has their own floor. And spoiler alert for Delicatessen: if you're not deemed useful enough, you're killed and you are served up to the people living in the hotel. But it's weird and wacky, and it's one of the most interesting films to watch, and it's because of the way it's shot. The story itself is what it is. It's okay, but the way it's shot makes you think like that was an assault on the senses. And I think what going to university and studying what I studied taught me is a good story is probably 50% of what you want to portray to an audience member. But if it looks bad, sounds bad, they're gonna switch off. And I became obsessed with this thing that Darius Kunji used to do called a Dutch tilt. Absolutely obsessed with it. And all it is just having the camera. This is a normal shot, and a Dutch tilt is shot like that.
Oh, okay.
And it's just, sorry, for the audience, it's like a camera is tilted at sort of 15 or 20 degrees. And it's normally a low shot. It's normally the end of a corridor, but it's just a tilted shot. And I became obsessed with it because it makes an audience member feel so uneasy. And it's, you can film something. You can film, I don't know, EastEnders. And if you chuck a Dutch tilt in there, people know something bad is about to happen because it invokes that feeling. And all it is changing the angle of the camera that it's sat on. And I just think Darius is the master of it. And if you haven't watched Seven, it's in places it's quite a hard watch, but it's incredible. Absolutely incredible.
I love the story. I think it's brilliant. So well played to you. And it's interesting. What I was going to say though is probably most people are. I was going to say normal people, but that makes you.
No, you can go with normal
I
people.
don't mean it like that, but people who aren't interested or invested in the photography side of things, if it's really well done, they won't notice it necessarily, and that's the thing, and that's probably a good thing because then that makes them more invested in the film.
Yeah, a good editor will be someone that you don't know they've done a job.
Yeah,
both audio and visual. If you listen to this and you think we haven't had any breaks in our conversation, Dan's done a fantastic job of editing. And I think that is what helps build immersion into TV and film, podcast, video games. If you look at that and go, well, that cut was a bit jarring, or that doesn't seem right, I think it can take you out of the medium that you're watching. And I, there's a classic one that I think of. I quite like the film. I wouldn't say I'm mad into the film. The first Star Wars film, there's a scene where they're on Tatooine, and I can't remember whether they pick up C-3PO, and there's a cut where the one scene transitions to the other. As they lift up C-3PO, it wipes upwards, and it's very intentional. But when I watched it, I thought, that doesn't feel like it fits in here. And it made it very obvious that this film has been through the editing process. And it really took me out of this being like a story that I could be sat in for a short time. You get very sucked back in with something as good as Star Wars. But at the time, I remember that being really jarring for me as a viewer. And if you can do the subtle camera tricks, as we tried to do at university, I've told you before, Dan, I made a film at university. It's the only thing I have on my IMDb profile. If you search Joey Fitz, I was the lighting guy or the gaffer on a film called Special Sauce. And it was just about students getting kidnapped in Leeds that get put into one of the local takeaways. Why the takeaway ever agreed for us to film in there about a film serving humans, I don't know. But it's so hard to do well so that it doesn't feel forced. But when it's done well, it can be. It's the difference between a masterpiece and a good film.
Again, love how you talk about that. And I was going to go back to your EastEnders comment and say, well, there's always something bad in an EastEnders episode, baby. Again, I know obviously you've spoken a lot about some of the work you've done or the things you've done in your past. And yeah, again, it's just another area that fascinates me, kind of about you.
Well, that film, I spoke about it in Two Blokes. I don't know where else I've spoken about it, probably other places. We filmed a scene in Leeds in a back street, and I had a industrial grade smoke machine that I had to go on a 2-day course to be able to use. What I didn't account for is that we were working next to a nationwide bank, and the smoke seeped in and set all of their alarms off at 2 a.m. The police came out, thought we were breaking in, and yeah, it was stuff like that's really good fun with filming. So not at the time, but it's a good story.
I keep saying to you, the stories that you and your brother have got, man, I could do a series on you.
Well, you'll never know which of them are true and which aren't. They're all true, Dan, I promise.
Did you have any other films?
I could do, but I won't.
Okay.
I won't.
You sure? Okay. All right. Well, I think we've just got 2 more sections left if I've worked this out right. So, gigs and shows.
Yeah, I've got 3 for this, Dan, and I will keep them whistle stop. I don't want your edit to go for weeks. So, my wife and I went to see Gaslight Anthem, the one that I said was our first dance song in London. And I can't remember the year. I wish I knew the year, but it was at the Hammersmith Apollo. Have you been to a gig at the Apollo?
No, I don't think I have.
So the way that they have it is like, I can't remember the name of it. It's like a bit like an amphitheatre where the floor all slopes down to the stage.
Okay. Yeah.
And it's only a minuscule slope, but it means that if you're short like me, you cannot see the whole thing. And that gig, I think normally when you go to a band that you've been expecting, like big things of, they have like a big light show. It's all quite glitzy and glammy. And Gaslight Anthem went on stage. They had a poster at the back that said TGA. That was it. And it was like minimal everything. But the atmosphere in that room carried the gig. I have videos of that gig on my phone, and we were quite close to the speakers, and you can hear the music, but you can't hear Brian Fallon, the lead singer, because everyone in that room knew every word of the song, and they were just belting it. There were times where you could see the look on his face was like, bloody hell, this is awesome. And when a band feels that, I think you pick that up. And they have a song called Backseat that they always finish their shows with. And I remember we were quite far at the back for this because we actually wanted to see it. And Backseat was going on and people were going mad. And you could just see like limbs left, right and centre where people were jumping and crowd surfing. I don't even know what it was about the gig, but everything about it just worked. And it was amazing. Absolutely amazing. The other one, Download 2012. Is a cheat because it was the whole festival. We went, I didn't like any of the headliners. I wasn't bothered about the headlines that year apart from Rammstein. The cool thing about it was we worked at the O2 Academy at the time, and the gig scene in at that time anyway, I can't talk for now because I've not worked there for a very long time. If you knew someone, they knew someone, and you knew someone everywhere. So our friend who worked on the bars with us was artist liaison for Limp Bizkit. And on the third day, she went, "Do you want to come backstage?" And we were like, absolutely. So we went backstage at Download Festival, sat in the artist liaison section, and who comes and sits opposite me, Dan? Rory Clello from Enter Shikari with his very pregnant wife.
No.
And I sat there and I thought, I've got to talk to him. I couldn't say a word. I froze. I've met them a few times since, but I sat there and I had this tattoo, which is their album cover for their second album. And I was wearing a short sleeve shirt, and I was like slyly going, "Oh, I've got the tattoo of your band," but he didn't look. He was very preoccupied with his very pregnant wife. But they were like, the things that go on in that backstage area are so cool. Like they could do free tattoos at Download, and I thought, oh, I might get a Download dog. And then I realised I'd been at the festival for 5 days and not had a shower. And I was like, this is a recipe for infection. We saw Gaslight Anthem from the side of the stage, on the stage, the main stage at Download, which was amazing. Partway Drive, who are an Australian metalcore band, the energy they bring is amazing. But my favourite act from that, despite having Enter Shikari and Gaslight Anthem there that weekend, was a band called We Are the Ocean, and they were quite big when like emo really started taking over in sort of 2007-8, and they used to have two singers, and there was a singer and a screamer, and they binned off the screamer, and for Download they just played an acoustic set, and it was the first time I've ever seen them. But the lead singer, absolutely blew me away. He was absolutely amazing. We saw them later when they did an electric show, a normal show. I thought they were rubbish, but this acoustic show just worked. They set up all their own stuff. It felt very low key for a festival. It was one of the smallest stages there, and we were right against the barrier, and it was just brilliant set, brilliant festival, and just a good day.
Excellent. And another story from you. See, every time I speak to you.
Every time. Do you know, saying that, Dan, I'm really sorry. I've thought of another one that could definitely go here. I'll tell you the one that I've got written down. I've made notes, Dan. The one that I would have loved to have experienced, but it was on the year I was born, so it wasn't possible. Have you ever heard of Monsters of Rock, 1991?
I don't think so.
So Monsters of Rock, if you search it in YouTube, is a festival from 1991. AC/DC headline, couldn't care less about. Metallica played a set, and the audience is 500,000 people.
Wow.
It was the first live music event held in Moscow after the fall of the Soviet Union. And people went, I don't care if I like it, I want to go to this thing. And it just looks insane. They've got cameras on the stage looking out, and the crowd is so big that it arches over the horizon, and it just looks like they go on forever. I urge you to watch Enter Sandman live at Monsters of Rock. But the other one...
want that.
Well, I also hate crowds, so I'm not sure if Just it looks cool.
Yeah.
Maybe my mind wipe is that I'd like to see it on YouTube again for the first time.
Well, there you go.
That's quite sad,
that'll
really.
work. No, that'll work.
The other one is a band called Foxy Shazam. I think you'd like Foxy Shazam, Dan. They are wild. They're a bit weird. They're quite glammy. They are. Eric Nally is the lead singer, and he writes all of their music, but he has been, not from particularly reliable sources, but he's been called a modern day Freddie Mercury in the way he performs. So they have these albums that are really good, but the first time I saw them, I'd never heard them before. And it was my friend Ryan who got me the ticket. And he said, we're going to Foxy Shazam tonight. It was in a little venue called the Cockpit in Leeds.
So I'm just looking them up now.
Yeah. And they are a Canadian band. They came over. And once again, they set their own stuff up. And a few things happened at this gig that means it'll stay with me forever. We stood in front of the keyboard player. So the Cockpit didn't have barriers. It was like crowd stage. We stood in front of the keyboard player, and he's this guy with a massive beard, no hair on the top of his head. And he's setting it. Support band's gone. He's plugging in his keyboard, and he gestures me and Ryan over, and he goes, during the show, I'm going to be standing on this keyboard quite a lot. If I fall off, catch the keyboard because it's worth a lot more than I am. He didn't disappoint. He did stand on the keyboard a lot while he played it. And
did he fall off it?
He didn't fall off it. No, he's very skillful.
Yeah.
But Eric Nally does a thing at most shows. I'm not condoning this, but it's a hell of a thing to watch. It's like a freak show. He says, has anyone got a cigarette? And someone, I think, planted, chucks him big 20 deck of cigarettes.
Yeah.
And he'll go to light one up. And security always in these venues go, can't smoke, no smoking, after the smoking ban in the UK. And he goes, they say I can't smoke, so I'll show him. And then he'll put all of the cigarettes in his mouth at once, and he'll light them. And he'll be smoking 20 odd cigarettes at once. And you think, that's weird. That's so crazy. And then security will be going, put him out. And they go, they say I've got to get rid of him. So with 20 cigarettes lit in his mouth, he tips his head up, takes in a drag, and you see these cigarettes go down, and he just opens his mouth, and they all fall in his mouth, and he eats them while they're lit on stage. There's so many videos of it. I'll send you a video after this of Eric Nally eating the cigarettes. It's weird and wonderful music.
I mean, I've seen a couple of pictures, but yeah, the video. I mean, looking at them, they do look like yeah, you're right. I think I would be interested, so I will listen to them.
They're
so
really cool.
If you can afterwards, if you can message me some songs if you think
definitely. Well, for the audience as well. So Wannabe Angel's a great one, and I can't remember the name of the other one. There's an album where the album cover is the lead singer and then some cheerleaders, and one of the cheerleaders has a handprint on her ass, and that's the album you want to listen to.
Because I do love picking up new sort of bands and music from this program. So yeah.
Well, we'll definitely check out Foxy Shazam. The album's called Foxy Shazam. Wannabe Angel, Bye Bye Symphony, Oh Lord. They're all great songs.
Okay.
Definitely check them out. And I think it also holds a place in my heart. And sorry to bring the tone down, but we lost Ryan in 2018. Ryan took his own life in that year. And I think that's one of my favourite memories that I have with him. He was my best mate at uni. He was an absolutely incredible guy. His funeral was the same day as my wedding day. I never made it. I've never been to his grave. I've never had a chance to. But I remember Foxy Shazam so fondly and so vividly that it makes me think of Ryan whenever I listen to them. And that gig was one of the best gigs I've ever been to, thanks to him. So, yeah, I think that's the reason it sticks with me so fondly.
Well, thank you for sharing that. Yeah. I promise you I will. Actually, tonight, after we go off here, I will give them a listen.
Treat yourself.
Okay, all right. I think then that leaves just the random one of the night. Now, I added recently food because it doesn't have to be like a dish. It could be a random. It could be like a pepperami. But I do like finding out what people enjoy. So, what are your food items?
Oh, I chose one food item, Dan. I chose something that it's not even a food item. It's far more specific than that. a medium chicken burrito from Barburrito in Leeds at the base of Millennium Point.
That's very specific.
Very specific. I think I chose that because it reminds me, I haven't had it since we left Leeds in 2016, maybe a bit earlier than that. I met my wife at the O2 Academy, and before a shift, if everyone had time, the bar staff would all go and meet. We'd get a Barburrito beforehand, and that was always my order. And that kind of back end of uni started my relationship with my wife. A very, very happy memories constantly in that time. So I choose that, but it has to be in that time frame as well. So no one's ever going to experience that burrito and think of it as fondly as I do. But they don't have Barburrito here. It's a northern thing, and I say here, Dudley, Birmingham. It's a northern thing. I think Nottingham is the furthest south it goes. But I'd love to go back, and I will go back when we go near one, but nothing quite hit the same as nostalgically thinking about those trips with that really good group of people. And yeah.
Well, Joey, you've done it.
Done it.
You bit through the mind, right? It's yeah. Hope it wasn't too bad.
No, great.
No, thank you for that, because it's always good to speak to people. I hope people have found out a little bit more about you, and I think you've definitely got more stories in you. So I've got to work out how to get you on for another kind of one of these. I'll wipe your mind of this, and then I'll bring you back on.
My real life event is the first time I appeared as the co-host of Casting Views.
Oh, well, look at that! Listen to you. No, look, thank you for coming on again, and I do appreciate you sort of coming on and hosting a number of episodes with me. Before you go, is there anything else you want to say? And I do want you to plug your shows again.
Listen to Game Club Pod. Follow us on Twitch after you've listened to Casting Views and the PodPack Collective. That's as close to a plug as you're getting, Dan.
All right, look, yeah, just listen to Game Club Pod. That's what I'll say. Yeah, we'll work on. I've got like I said, so this goes out in September. I've got a few ideas for the rest of the year. Make sure you listen to Podmas, the however many days of Podmas. I think you're going to do quite a few.
Well, we'll see. We'll see.
I don't want to say anything because I don't want to make you feel like you have to stick to that number.
I've told you, so I have to stick to it.
Yeah. But yeah, we'll look at what episodes we can get you on, do some more fun stuff with. So Game Club Pod on podcast platforms and social media. You can get hold of me across all social media. Just look for Casting Views. If you want to be on this or any other episode, or you got ideas for episodes you'd like me to cover, just drop me a note at castingviewspod@gmail.com. With that, I think it's just time to say goodbye. So, Joey?
Goodbye. Thanks, Dan.
All right, cheers all, and I'll see you next week for another episode of Casting Views.
1, 2, 3, 4. If I want your opinion, I will give it to you. Come on, check what we've got, 'cause you need it. Don't make